yours? You are a soccer generation that has been given everything. You are a soccer generation who is on the verge of squandering everything. So, now it's time to pay it back. Make us believe again.
The United States is one of the most populated countries in the world, ranked third with a population of 331,430,824 people when this video was released. It's no surprise we have an abundance of athletes. On top of that, the US hosts some of the biggest sports competitions and has some of the greatest athletes in the world that it's easy to overlook some of the forgotten parts. For example, Michael Jordan dominating in the NBA, Michael Phelps dominating in Olympic swimming, but if you take a look at the United States men's national soccer team, apart from a few, you'll see unrecognizable faces. Even when we talk about the greats, Landon Donovan, Clint Dempsey, Josie Altidore, and Tim Howard, they barely make a dent in the grand scheme of things. Regardless of the 6 gold cups they've won in their region, the United States has yet to make a lasting impression on the world stages. The United States has the ingredients, the instructions, and the environment to produce world-class football. So why isn't the US men's team ranked amongst the top teams in the world? Well, there's a lot of reasons, but before we get into that, you need to know some soccer history in the region. Soccer, or football depending where you're from, is currently the most popular sport in the world and has been for the past century. In fact, there are 211 member nations in FIFA. FIFA's 6 confederations represent different regions of the world: UEFA, CAF, CONCACAF, CONMEBOL, OFC, and AFC. The United States men's national team is a member of the North, Central American, and Caribbean Association Football. The team has appeared in 10 World Cups, including the first in 1930, where they reached the semifinals, and more recently in 2010, where they reached the knockout stages before exiting the tournament in a 2-1 defeat to Ghana. The US also competes in continental tournaments, including the Gold Cup and Copa America, in which they have taken home 6 Gold Cups and have achieved 4th place finish in 2 Copa Americas. Soccer in the United States in question is governed by different organizations. The United States Soccer Federation governs most levels of soccer in the country, including the national team, professional leagues, and amateur leagues. The NCAA governs colleges, and National Federation of High School governs schools. The match regulations are generally the same between the 3 governing bodies, although there are some subtle differences. I put a link to the comparative study of rules and laws in the description if you want to check that out after the video. The pay-to-play system isn't built to develop the most hardworking, talented individuals, but perhaps the individuals with the best opportunities. To uncover the reasons behind the US soccer problem, we must take a look at why we produce inadequate players. Perhaps the national team doesn't consist of the most talented individuals, but the players with the best opportunities. The US has a large number of talent with an unbreakable amount of passion for the game, but their families might not be able to send them to a camp or academy. The cost of enrolling in a soccer camp may cost anywhere from $800 to $1,500 per year. This exposes the problem. Half of the kids who share the same, if not more, passion for the game don't receive a fair shot to make it to the professional level based on their economic class. So if your family is low income, you don't have a great chance of excelling in the US. Meanwhile, some of the biggest stars like Ronaldo, Ibrahimovic, and Neymar all come from poverty. This is why we don't hear about any rag to riches stories in the US. In Europe, most of the club's academies are free because they are part of a youth system that receives support from their adult club. The way they make their money is from their professional teams. In an interview with GQ, Ibrahimovic explains why he thinks the US isn't as successful as other countries in soccer. He says, first they think about the money, then about quality and results. It has to be said that the sport is expensive, very expensive. For example, in order for my children to play for a good football team, I have to pay $3,500 per child. It's not for the figure, but for the whole concept. And he has a point. In the US, the cost of playing is expensive. Those with wealth have access of playing with high-level teams. According to a 2019 study by the Aspen Institute and Utah State University about the cost of playing for youth sports, the annual average spent by a family per child for soccer is $537. For American football and basketball, the amounts were $485 and $427. I'm going to quote Jeff Cameron because he explains it well. It's about who you know, it's about your size, it's about your reputation, and it's about what fancy youth club you play for. Despite costing more annually than basketball or football, it is still far behind in popularity ratings across the nation, which leads me to my next point. Soccer's comparative lack of popularity, especially at the high school, college, and professional levels. According to many different websites, the top most popular sports at a professional level is as followed. At number 1, we have American football. At number 2, we have baseball. At number 3, we have basketball. And finally, in the number 4 spot, soccer. Now there are many different variations of this list with baseball and basketball fighting for the number 2 spots, so let me know what you think about the list. Soccer used to be number 5 in the list behind hockey, but it is really gaining traction in the US in recent years with the signing of big names. In college, American football takes the number 1 spot, followed by basketball in number 2 and soccer in number 3. Soccer just doesn't play into the American culture like it does in the European countries. In 1992, the famous Gatorade commercial, Be Like Mike, was launched. Fans of a certain age are probably hearing the jingle in their head. Fresh off his first championship, Michael Jordan was the hero figure. The song features a choir of children singing, "I Wanna Be Like Mike." Soccer has never had anything close to that type of influence in the media. Soccer is not a Northern American sport, so it doesn't hold any heritage to the continent. The top 3 major sports, American football, basketball, and baseball, were all invented in America. It's ingrained in the culture, where soccer is an outlier. If we take a look at an athlete from each individual sport, you notice a difference. The smaller, thinner athlete plays soccer. In America, everything is bigger, from the food to the sodas. These athletes need size to have an advantage over their opponents. In soccer, of course, high levels of endurance, agility, and coordination are necessary at the top level, but athleticism is not a defining factor. Just take a look at 2 of the greatest Spanish players of all time, Iniesta and Xavi. They are not big, fast, or strong. Rather, they are technical, smart, and nimble on the field. If you see where I'm going with this, culturally, soccer is a foreign sport. Another example of this is the point system. In American football and basketball, points are piled up. In the NFL, there are an average of 48.4 points scored in a game. In the NBA, the average is 111.8 points scored in a game. In soccer, however, the points scored in a game is 2.71, a pretty significant difference. There's no one to blame. Soccer is just not a part of the American culture. There is no Monday night soccer. There's no parties to see the MLS championship like there is for the American football. The only time when a country thinks of the game is during the World Cup, and the US didn't even qualify for the last World Cup in the 2018. However, there is still hope for the United States men's national team, featuring Christian Pulisic and Weston McKennie. Christian Pulisic is a 21-year-old American professional soccer player who plays an attacking midfielder for Chelsea in the Premier League and the United States national team. This year, in the 2020-21 season, he was given the number 10 jersey, the most symbolic number in football due to the sheer number of legends that used his number 10 jersey. Last year, Pulisic's transfer was worth $73 million, making him the most expensive Northern American player of all time. In the 2019-20 season, he made 25 appearances, 9 goals, and 4 assists. Pulisic grew up playing for the local U.S. Football Development Academy club in Pennsylvania until in 2015 when Borussia Dortmund signed 16-year-old Pulisic, and he climbed his way from their U17 to their first team. He became the youngest non-German player to score in the Bundesliga at 17 years old, and in London, he scored a perfect hat-trick, his first time scoring for Chelsea. That means he netted goals with his right foot, left foot, and a header, which is insane. Weston McKennie is a 22-year-old American professional soccer player who plays defensive midfielder for Juventus in the Serie A. He signed on loan to the club when he was 22 years old for 18.5 million euros. Weston McKennie is praised for his defensive ability and passing skills that allow him to dictate the flow of the game. In 2019, he scored the fastest hat-trick in the U.S. men's national team's history, scoring 3 goals in 13 minutes. These two are praised for breaking the mold of American football players playing for prestigious European clubs. But not only are they playing, they're thriving. This video took hours of research, writing, and editing to create, so if you enjoyed the content you watched, I'd appreciate it if you would obliterate that like button, as it helps with the complicated YouTube algorithm. And if you want to see more content like this, subscribe to the channel, as I'll be uploading weekly. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.